Ladies and gentlemen, and this is Dwarf Fortress Review. Strike the Earth, Praise Something. This was just ssethtzeentach. This is a re-reaction. I already did the Dwarf Fortress by ssethtzeentach, but it was one of the early reaction about ssethtzeentach that I did. That ssethtzeentach reaction thing I'm doing right now. At the time, I didn't watch so many of Dwarf Fortress like games. After that, I've watched I guess by now almost all of the ssethtzeentach videos, and I realized like how good Dwarf Fortress is, and how many games like that are there, right? And people are constantly praising Dwarf Fortress and comparing things to Dwarf Fortress. People saying how hard Dwarf Fortress is and how many ridiculous things you can do in it. And I realized like, you know what? Let's watch this one again, because I don't remember much. It was a surprise first reaction, I guess. I didn't expect what Dwarf Fortress was going to be when I reacted to it. But now, knowing after all that, watching all those Seth videos, I think I'll have a new perspective. So let's watch it. Remember, if you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe. Check out the reaction. There's a link in the description. Check out the cards. Everything cards in here.
Hey people, Seth here. Today, I'll be covering a long-running cult classic that's still updated and developed to this very day. A game which chronicles the lives and accomplishments of stumpy alcoholics as they struggle to avoid sobriety. A game where the most ludicrous events take place daily, where civilizations rise and fall just because someone left a Necronomicon in the public library. A game where the UI is so useless and convoluted that you'd honestly have an easier time playing Microsoft Excel.
I'm a performance artist. Deep, dark fantasies.
Oh, ganging up.
Come on, college boy. On my shoulder.
I'm speaking, of course, about Dwarf Fortress. Dwarf Fortress
It is a pixelated type of game. Look at that. Huh. I'll remember that part, but yeah. Okay. So, what I remember from this reaction is that in this game you can do ridiculous things just like ⚨ 13. There's way too many things you can do, and outcome is randomly generated. That's as far as I remember.
is less of a game and more of a complex fantasy world simulation made by one guy over 20 years, and probably for the rest of his natural and unnatural lifespan, as we plan to crowdfund Tarn.
So is this like ⚨ 13 where people, I guess communities or even maybe him over time improved it slowly? Because this game is from 2006, and by now over time slowly the new update made this game what it is, or he made the game just like what it is from the start, because that would be ridiculous if one guy did this shit.
Adam's a synthetic body, so he can focus on what truly matters. Dwarf Fortress really is one of the greatest autism projects to ever blossom. Fun fact, it's also the hardest game to run on PC. Even an i7 processor chokes and dies the moment you forget to sterilize your cats. If not for the ever-increasing technological demands of Dwarf Fortress, AMD and Intel would be bankrupt right now. To even be—
Yeah, this is why Ryzen was invented, right? AMD is like, we are introducing the new generation of processor and graphic cards, or Ryzen series. Why did you make that? For Dwarf Fortress, obviously. We were inundated with lots of email, right? By the fans that we want a processor and graphic card that can handle Dwarf Fortress. So we have 16 gigabytes of graphics card. We have ridiculous, to 20, 25 or 20 million core processor now for Dwarf Fortress alone.
Begin playing Dwarf Fortress, you'll need some prescription medication, but more importantly, you'll need a world to play in. So, we create one, we set some parameters, and the game will then calculate 250 fucking years of history for this randomly generated world. And, depending on your computer, this may also take 250 years. Once the world is made, it's all yours, and like an abusive lover, she will caress and beat you senseless, and each time, you'll come
I'm not gonna lie, I like that whole element.
back for more. There's two—
Not about the lower part, but about the how it takes time to process the world even with the best equipment, because that sounds shitty at first, but the guy who created put so much detail into it, and it takes time calculating. So it's not some bullshit, right? It's a properly randomly generated world that calculates everything, even if it takes time, right? Once the world is created, it's created for the parameters that you put in. This is so fucking good. First time I heard about randomly generated, and I'm like, yeah, who gives a fuck about randomly generated? Randomly generated is crap, because I didn't take into account games like this, right? I just thought that open world game where world like Minecraft, right? World gets bigger and bigger, and it just randomly gets generated. Like this is not tailor made. It won't be fun, right? It won't be fun as a properly tailor made open world game. So randomly generated thing is really bad. But I didn't take into account something like Dwarf Fortress. This is like, you can create whole new worlds every single time and newer outcomes every single time, because it's all randomly generated. It's just bunch of script that creates world for you, and the possibilities could be endless. There's so many different combinations. Holy shit, this is a good concept.
Main game modes you can play in Dwarf Fortress. You can either choose to embark on distant lands and lead a fortress to ruin, or die horrifically in the pursuit of adventure. To begin, let's cover Fortress mode first. All you have to do is pick a nice place to embark, and that's about it. Despite common myths, Dwarf Fortress isn't complicated. Just follow a couple of tutorials and you'll be a seasoned veteran in no time. You should also download
not what I heard. Everybody's bitching about how hard Dwarf Fortress is, like it's nearly impossible to learn. It will take a long time to learn. Apparently sets things differently. So I don't know. Maybe you just have to check the tutorials that Seth talks about, and it's easier then. Maybe you can't really learn from in-game, I guess. Yeah, gamer like this are such a hardcore and I guess expert level thing that your average gamer cannot just learn, right? This is why people say, I'm a PC gamer with pride, that dorky pride sometimes. I'm one of them. That whenever you play a PC game, right, games like this, that just implies that you play games like this, right, which is really complicated.
And use the lazy noob pack, because the game is almost unplayable without it. Some may disagree with this statement, but to put it simply, they're fucking wrong. These same people will disagree with my choice of tile set, or the fact that I use a tile set at all. To answer these concerns and make this video that much easier to watch, I will be using all of the tile sets at random. In Fortress mode, you start out
so I guess hardcore Dwarf Fortress like tile set, you son of a... It's like one of those people who say like, okay, filtered alcohol, we drink neat, unfiltered. We want it to burn inside.
7 dwarves, given the difficult task of establishing civilization. The longer you survive and flourish, the more migrants will arrive from neighboring cities, attracted by the promise of your growing fortress. From there on, any number of things can happen. Disaster, tragedy, invasions, and tantrum spirals which threaten to end your fort at any given moment. But whether you live or die, just remember, losing is fun. It's impossible to cover everything, so let me tell you some stories. The first fortress I ever founded was absolutely terrible. We had no metal, so instead we fought with sticks and traded pottery for any possible scrap of metal. We also lived in constant fear. There was a were-zebra on the loose. He kept eating my chickens and trampling my dwarves. As if I couldn't escape the furry menace in real life, it torments me in my video.
See, at the first time when I watched this video, I thought lots of things that Seth was talking about was, I guess, some kind of a joke, euphemism, or whatever, right? But apparently he was speaking the truth. Every single fucking thing. Look at that zebra twisted into humanoid form. A large zebra twisted into humanoid form. Oh god.
It torments me in my video games as well.
It is craze for blood and flesh.
Out that the were-zebra was a human musician who plays at my tavern, so I let him stay and snap a few chicken necks every month. The place was actually quite successful. 5 years on and no major invasions. What the hell? I asked my friend, who knows Dwarf Fortress, to take a look. He came back shocked and told me, "You're not at war with the goblins." How? I had no idea. My fortress was a place of culture and learning, of drunken revelry and international diplomatic renown. Life proceeded as normal. And then, one day, one of my guests of honor, a legendary human wrestler, had too much to drink and went into a murderous rage. He proceeded to grab a goblin dancer and pulled off her lower jaw. As she was screaming, he began thrashing her with her own jawbone. The situation quickly deteriorated as she retaliated back. My other dwarves, upon seeing that a man was under attack and, fearing for his life, used appropriate self-defense to remove the assailant's ability to chew food, launched into a furious brawl. It was self-defense to remove the assailant's ability to chew food, launched
sparring. Oh my god, look at that. The red is different, blue is different, I guess, right? Two different teams. Okay, this is telling. It's no story. It's just like who's fighting.
Into
Okay.
a furious
The siege operator vomits. The siege operator.
brawl. It was a bloodbath that marked the beginning
God.
of a race riots. Every goblin in my fortress was slaughtered. For our acts of racial cleansing, the goblins had declared war on us, one we couldn't win. And all because some retard couldn't handle his mushroom wine. Several months later, my fortress was swallowed by the green horde. Those who weren't murdered walled themselves off, went crazy and consumed each other. The rest starved to death. Dwarf Fortress, a fun, light-hearted experience for the whole family. My second fortress
Great for your kid's birthday, right? Your 8-year-old, his birthday, give him Dwarf Fortress. He'll never be same forever.
fared slightly better, until I dug too deep. My third? Well, we all know how this ends already, right? One of my dwarves got possessed, so I walled off his workshop, forgot about it, and accidentally opened up his crypt. In the middle of town, the nauseous fumes from his hot, decomposing body
Is that the fumes?
erupted across several levels, driving everyone insane from the sight and stench of his swollen cadaver. In the chaos, a mother dropped her toddler into a shallow pool of water. The child drowned,
Look at
causing
that.
the mother to go into a tantrum and attack an experienced axe dwarf, who decapitated her. The dead bodies caused more tantrums, which would result in even more dead bodies, which eventually reduced my population to a single person, a single axe dwarf, who
Alright, seriously.
was now
Okay, seriously. I understand randomly generated, but what kind of a scripts you need to create in order to, have this kind of a system where randomly generated can create this kind of system where, someone dies, their body, I guess, reeks, I guess, and everybody just, goes crazy. A kid, basically, drowns in water, mothers goes crazy, somebody kills the, who the fuck? How does this all becomes randomly generated, right? I mean, some simple things, right? Simple thing here and there, understandable, but all these ridiculous things happening. I mean, seriously, who's that guy who created this game? What is he doing right now? Is he, on job with some major company or something? Because he created something ridiculous here.
considered legendary, having gained enough experience from beheading everybody else. My fourth attempt was actually fine. The fortress still stands as a grisly reminder of why we have health and safety. I read online somewhere that you could train your dwarves extremely quickly by constructing a danger room. The idea is simple. We put a dwarf in a room filled with traps, we activate them, and our brave warriors will gracefully dodge and block every single one of them.
10%
But this
of them.
process wasn't fast enough, so we replaced the traps with coins. We hit the lever and 500 freshly minted coins would harmlessly ricochet at high speed across the room, turning our dwarves into professional soldiers instantly. However,
Oh, I get. He was trying to cheat the system. Like, okay, this design of a room automatically turns these dwarves into warriors. So why risk it with the traps? Let's just put coins in it. The system will think it's a trap and they'll come out as a warrior. Is that it? I'm pretty sure the game mechanics, the game's engine is much more refined than that. So far, everything that randomly has happened so far.
it didn't work. 500 coins suddenly ricocheted at high speed and destroyed my
There you go. Oh my god, this is incredible.
dwarf's windpipe. Even the best surgeons available couldn't operate quick enough to restore oxygen supply. The cause of death was ruled to be asphyxiation by legal tender. Not to be dissuaded, I tried to optimize coin training. I made my men wear 5 layers of cotton around their necks. The results? Several women were now widows, and about a dozen men were now buried without a throat. It turns out coins are very dangerous. Attempt number 5, my current and final fortress. One day, I receive a notification. One of my master engravers had just sculpted a masterpiece on the dining room wall. I find the engraving and read the description. He just sculpted a drawing of himself stabbing another dwarf, and soon after, he actually stabbed him. What an absolute lad. This was
Seriously.
also about the time I decided to embark on a haunted biome, and my personal advice
I like how that whole scenario, the developers literally put in the script, like somebody actually creates a fucking painting and then does what the painting says, like adding depth to it. Like he painted that because that's what it was on his mind, and then he literally did that.
don't do that. Nothing dies on a haunted biome. The moment you kill an animal, it gets back up. The moment you chop off a limb, it gets possessed and tries to choke you. Did you know this applies to shellfish and crustaceans as well? I didn't, but I've just lost a good fisherman to an undead pile of lobster shells. If all of this sounds like too much to handle, then you can play Adventure Mode instead. Adventure Mode lets you design and control a single character that can interact with, influence, and shape.
Oh my god, you can play as a one person? I remember this part. I mean, even I said it in the first reaction that I would definitely do this one. Right, one person, just playing as one person in this kind of a chaotic world would be such an experience. I mean, I would like to say like, if some AAA major company really put money into it and create a game that has same elements like this, but it's like, 3D game, right? But has same randomly generated elements like this, where castles get created randomly generated, events happen randomly generated. Maybe it's too much to ask for, right? Shit like this that requires way too much power than no processors and graphics card yet have, I think. So maybe one day in the far future. But right now, this just, there's some pixels that doing this shit. Also, what is one of the latest game that I just reviewed from Seth, what he was saying that this is one of the worst looking games. Dwarf Fortress doesn't look that great either, it's just pixels. But this is incredible. I seriously can't believe, right? If you told me 2 months ago that I would like a game like this, just pixels moving around, I would have said, are you out of your mind? Graphics is one of the important things for me, right? But this feels so incredible. I'm probably gonna play this game whenever I have time. There's RimWorld Station 13, right? I mean, it's a great game. Like if you, I don't know, just doing something and just playing the game in the background, right? It would be incredible game. Just focusing on the events that are happening.
The world. Once again, it's impossible to cover everything, so instead, I'll share some of my character's exploits. The very first character I ever made was a human, locally renowned for his acts of heroism. I didn't know the controls and didn't really care. I spent my entire time accusing children of being vampires and throwing silver at them until they died. No one dared intervene in my righteous crusade against darkness. Incidentally, one of the people I accused was...
That is so sad, right? As soon as I started as one person, I started accusing the children of being vampires. See that they died because of silver. I stabbed them with the silver and they died. They must be vampire.
Actually a vampire, who proceeded to kill me instantly to get rid of the evidence. My second character was a kobold who had successfully integrated with modern civilization. To demonstrate how integrated I was, I immediately assassinated the king. To my surprise, the guards didn't even care. My reward for committing regicide was monarchy. I had become the new ruler of this kingdom. I spent the rest of my career spreading rumors that the previous king was murdered by myself. Everyone refused to believe it and said I, the king, was full of shit. My third character managed to find a really nice book.
Wait a minute, so maybe there is no script that says like, what if somebody actually posts that they killed the king? How the story progresses. So I guess it's a failsafe they added, like they don't believe you. Is that it? That is way too much thinking in that apartment.
A book of necromancy, which I generously donated to one of my fortress libraries. After retiring from adventuring and checking up on the place, I was pleasantly surprised to find the place overrun with undead. Then I got bored and installed some lore-friendly mods. Currently, I'm playing as Vegeta, a local Saiyan prince who accidentally used instant transmission to teleport to hell. There, I learned that the wrestling system in Dwarf Fortress is extremely elaborate, allowing Vegeta to chokehold demons while he plucks out their necks. After returning from the underworld, Vegeta spent several hours vomiting on townspeople and indirectly killed a child by doing push-ups. Later that day, an elvish serf refused to yield to the Saiyan prince. He rejected his generous demands for both of his shoes in exchange for his life. Now, I'm not very good at Dragon Ball Z lore, but I don't remember Vegeta being able to make Destructo discs. But who gives a shit? In this mod, he can. So, I decapitated a bunch of elves with energy discs and turned into a giant ape. Then I got drunk and crawled on the floor, stealing people's genitals. In case you haven't figured this out already, Dwarf Fortress is an amazing game. And not only that, it's unique. There's nothing quite like it. It's a sandbox and you make your own fun. And if you get bored...
I mean, Space Station 13 is definitely one of them, but it is kind of different, right? You do your job and shit happens. In this one, ridiculous thing happens that you don't even think of. But I guess it was, at the core, it is very similar. Space Station 13 and this one.
of sand, there's a billion mods out there which make the game that much more intricate and entertaining. Sure, it's hard to get into, but then again, so are nursing homes.
I bet there are people that is just extreme gamers but have only played Dwarf Fortress for fucking years. I mean, there are people who say, I've been playing Skyrim for 10 years. Like, this is nothing. There are probably players who's been playing Dwarf Fortress for past 15 fucking years, if not more, right? Past 15 years, only Dwarf Fortress with mods, and they're probably copy of Dwarf Fortress looks ridiculous.
Give it a perfect score. Perfection is subjective, which is why everyone will see something different, or something gay. As always, more content to come, so stay tuned.
Oh my god, I did not remember lots of part of this, but after, you know, watching all these other reviews, right, doing reaction to all that, holy shit, Dwarf Fortress is really incredible, right? I mean, this is very close, you know, equal to kind of ⚨🡪13, right? But this is kind of, you know, more of a, you know, like Fortress, ridiculous spectrum. This feels like more of a, like, you know, from Fallout, Vault Tech Experiment, Vault, right? People come to the vault and shit happens, and what's the result? Only one dwarf is left because he killed every fucking single one of the person because some shit happened. Somebody died, that decomposing body made people go into frenzy, a kid, you know, drowned, mother went crazy, and that just, you know, this chain of event happened. I mean, you can't make this shit up, but apparently you can because this is randomly generated shit, right? The scripts made this up. God, I love this game. Seriously, one guy made it. I still can't believe it. How the fuck one guy can create all these scripts? Is the, you know, probably created some core game, then over time either he added to things or people added to things like ⚨🡪13. I don't know. But yeah. Alright people, that was Dwarf Fortress review by ssethtzeentach, one of the best game ever. I'm definitely playing this. If I'm playing a pixelated game like this, right, it's Dwarf Fortress and ⚨🡪13, right? But I'm definitely playing this one because this is definitely epic. All this ghost and, you know, ghost fortress, and putting a necromancer copy in the library has a cause and effect that everybody becomes a necromancer. What the fuck? I love this, man. Seriously, man. If obviously doing all this in a latest AAA games is not, you know, not gonna happen, but add some element from this, right? I mean, this is what people want, right? A live, breathing world. This is what it is. Once you start in the game, anything can happen. That's a breathing world. Even developers don't know what the fuck is going to happen because of all the randomly generated things. Add some element from this. Right, people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like, subscribe, check out the Rick Sunday, there's a link in the description, check out the cards, and yeah, I'll see you next time.